Hey guys, I haven't been putting out a lot of content recently because I've been working on multiple projects. One is an album, and the other is my stand-up comedy special, which is coming out eventually, and also the infrastructure for my website that is going to be required in order for me to really sell all of that. When I saw the poster for Jordan Peele's Nope, that kind of read my mind because I was like, nope, no way I'm seeing that. Because his last movie was a dud. It was like total ass. I can't believe this is the same guy who did Slap Ass, like one of the funniest comedy skits I've ever seen. And now he's doing a sci-fi movie about horse ranchers who encounter aliens. This is a very well planned film. It's a very well made film. There are sequences that are genuinely unsettling, and I appreciate that Jordan Peele went the extra mile to give context to certain characters. It's really like he uses so many tropes from so many genres that I think the main problem with this movie is it feels confused at times, and I wish there was a little more time to flesh out the characters and less showing off like, look, I can juggle all these different genres in a 2 hour time span. And I'm like, well, that's impressive and all, but, it's really not my cup of tea. But I can still acknowledge it's a good movie, even though it's really not for me. But there is something brilliant about this film. It's not the most entertaining movie, but I find that, like, most of its value is in the subtext, like, beneath the surface. Below the surface, there are themes of exploitation that don't always pan out. But even ignoring that, even ignoring all his usual like racism, criticism, and all that, there are a lot of open-ended moments with multiple interpretations. This movie doesn't hold your hand. It challenges you if you're willing to go a certain distance with it, and that may strike some as like inaccessible or liberal arts bullshit. And that is kind of what Peele has been going on for a while since Get Out. I think Get Out is by far his most accessible film. I feel like the biggest problem with the film is the comedy. Like, it just doesn't work. There's like jokes made about at the Asian character's expense. There's this one, like, the chick Kiki Palmer or whatever, she's like trying to do like a Samuel L. Jackson impersonation the whole time. He's like, and I feel like it's just like a failed attempt at comedy that doesn't work. But there are also, and this is what saves the movie, there are scenes of legitimate, like, edge of your seat suspense where Jordan Peele, he waits a long time before showing you something in a way you've never seen, and that's called directing. The predator in this film is genuinely creepy. The design of the creature is new and exciting. It's like nothing you've ever seen in a movie before. They're not they're not like the most sympathetic characters, but you can tell like the acting choices are there. They're present at the very least, and they give the dialogue a much needed boost. I would have liked to see some more character moments. It's got a lot of filler, but overall, it's an interesting film. And I will admit, if Jordan Peele had dropped a comedy or western element and just stuck to the sci-fi and horror, the narrative would be more effective. But I admit it wouldn't be as original. And sometimes the movie you want is not the one that's going to stand out. And Peele certainly knows how to do that. So I mildly recommend this one. I'm gonna give it a 6 out of 10. I also watched another technically horror movie, but it's more of a thriller. It's called The Black Phone, starring Ethan Hawke as the Grabber. This is a period piece set in the 1970s about a child kidnapper with some supernatural elements in lieu of police work. Is usually how these movies work. It's like, oh, it's all about the cops. I like that it wasn't about them this time in unraveling the mystery. And Ethan Hawke does a really good job in this role. But the real stars of this movie are the child actors. They got real chops. There's a scene of child abuse in this movie that's like legitimately jarring and well acted. And the film does a great job of capturing the 70s culture where bullying and violence amongst children was rampant, and back when people weren't massive pussies and knew how to settle their differences in person. Can we have that back? Some later plot developments are a little far-fetched, there are major plot holes that like really don't add up when you think about them. It's kind of like the opposite of Nope, where it's like Nope is a really totally planned movie from start to finish, but it lacks that like finesse of a real story. Whereas this movie is all like it's just a total crowd pleaser. It's like as dark as it is, and for the subject matter, it's actually really light on its feet. It knows what its audience wants. Like it just shows children beating the shit out of each other and getting abused and shit. You know, it's just like I feel like that's just what the people want to see, and that's why that's one of the reasons why it's so accessible. The third act of this movie is a little rushed, like I said, but it's hard not to root for the kid. Like he's a legitimate protagonist in this movie. And this is not one of those Blumhouse movies like Unfriended where I would watch it as a comedy. There used to be a whole slew of like go on Facebook and friend a demon horror movies. All we need now is a TikTok horror movie. I'm glad to see the studio raise their standards a tad. Yeah, anyway, it's a bit sloppy at times, but at its core, it's a good thriller and a kid's movie. And the kids will love it. Way better than that retarded clown movie. I'm giving the Black Phone 7 out of 10. And last but not least, I watched the second feature film from Louis C.K., 4th of July, co-written by Joe List. Joe who? Who gives a fuck? I really had high hopes for this one. Louis C.K. is one of the greatest stand-up comedians, of course, but he also wrote and directed one of my favorite sitcoms, Louie. And not only is he a great artist, he also self-funds his shit. So, like, the fact that he was canceled over that bullshit, like, it didn't really affect his life at all, other than, like, oh, people, whatever. He's not losing out. He's really not losing big time, because he knows how to fund his own endeavors. He's not, like, a careerist like these other comedians, where he relies on the people he works with. He knows how to self-fund, and he's really like a revolutionary in that sense. And that's what all great artists should be doing. They should just take responsibility for their own business and their own products, and just, support each other when they can. But as a filmmaker, he's an odd one, because his first movie was called I Love You, Daddy. It didn't get released when it was supposed to, because it was going to drop at the exact same time his scandal broke. And that was so funny, because the movie I Love You, Daddy, it's about sexual misconduct, literally, at the exact same time he was Me Too'd. And that film was extremely self-indulgent, like black and white, fucking orchestra, all that shit. But it was also really funny and well acted. It has a certain risque charm to it, and it's worth watching. But when I saw the trailer for 4th of July, man, it looked like every single indie movie cliche rolled into one. And sadly, I was right. This is a film about a former alcoholic jazz pianist who's involved in AA and decides to visit his obnoxious, with a capital O, family for the 4th of July. And that's their whole trait, is that they're fucking obnoxious. And the things go awry as expected. They're all drunk and they're trying to, like, shove alcohol down his gullet. And he's like, no way, man. But not in any funny or unsettling way. The movie is just corny. It's straight up cornball. It has nothing new to say about its subject matter, with the exception of Bobby Kelly, who actually gives a really good performance. There's nobody in this movie who's even fucking memorable. Every character sounds like they're trying to be Louis C.K., and I hate movies that are just like every character sounds exactly like the writer. With his Louis C.K. with his 4-letter words, like he just like inserts the word faggot or cunt into a random sentence just to like make it sound shocking, but it really isn't, because the dialogue doesn't tell you anything special. So, well, people are like this in real life. Yeah, well, I don't want to watch your family in a movie. I don't want to watch your real life. Chances are, like, most people are too boring to be in a movie. So so even if it comes across like I know these people, it doesn't excuse the hack writing. Joe Listless has all the depth of a petri dish. He's just a whiny soy boy, and he's the lead. And his character arc has been done 1,000 times in better films. Exact same story. And oh my god, where do I even start with like the score? It sounds like a commercial. It sounds like the jingly guitar that they use in a fucking Allstate ad or whatever, State Farm. And all the other characters are just obnoxious and not funny. I'm actually surprised by how little comedy was even attempted, which would be fine if the drama was effective, but it's not. You know, there's some conversation that the main character has with his girlfriend. It's just gross and out of pocket. Like, and it just strikes me as Louis C.K. taking himself way too seriously as a director. And there's like, you can tell it's like really low budget shit. So like, but there's ways around that. But dude, dead ass, I've seen student films with better cinematography, better editing, better acting. Like straight up, it looks worse than the movies that we made when we were in high school. It looks like just a shitty commercial. This is the Louis C.K. equivalent of an Adam Sandler movie where he gets all his friends together, minus the production value, minus any attempt at humor. And as a drama, it falls flat. It's cookie cutter. You know, really lousy. I give this one a 3 out of 10.